to my channel. Well, today I'm going to work on the next block in the Underground Railroad series. I'm super excited to get back to this. And today I'm going to work on one of my favorite blocks, the Bear Paw block. It has an interesting history that began right here in my home state. So I'm going to tell you about it and then we'll start sewing. So let's get going. So a little bit about the history of this block. The Bear Paw block actually was first seen in my home state of Ohio in 1823. That's the first time that it's been documented in historical documents, and all the quilt historians have looked into it, and that's the first place it seems to have been made, found, seen, and named. And of course, like all the other blocks, it does have some alternative names, which I'll go into here in a minute. But think about what the Bear Paw block looks like. And if you've never seen one, you'll see one coming up soon. And actually, I'm going to pop up some pictures here of some finished Bear Paw quilts that I found on the internet. They're not my pictures, not my quilts, but some good examples of Bear Paw quilts. So if you look at the Bear Paw quilt, if you look around the edges, it looks a little bit like a sawtooth star. And they believe the sawtooth star was originated from the early 1800s, and so they definitely think the Bear Paw got a little bit of that from the sawtooth block. And it was modified to replicate the bear paw prints found in my region. So alternative names for the Bear Paw block are bear claw. There's a whole list, so I'm going to look at my list. Bear claw, which I intermittently call it bear paw, bear claw. To me, I've heard both all my life living in this area. Another interesting name was called Duck's Foot in the Mud. Now, that was first seen in New York, specifically the Long Island part of New York, and there's no bears there, so they think that maybe the quilt block sort of traveled over there, but that wasn't until the late 1800s, and they started calling it that. Hand of Friendship, it was called by the Quakers in Pennsylvania. Tea Leaf Design, and I'm not sure where that one originated from. Turkey Track, which is found in Wisconsin. Forest Path, or Indian Trail. So those are some of the alternative names that you might hear, but of course the most historically correct and known names are Bear Claw and Bear Paw. So how does this apply to the Underground Railroad? So supposedly the Bear Paw block told slaves on the railroad, or passengers, we're going to call them railroad passengers because I don't like that word slaves, but I know it's part of history, but the railroad passengers to follow the bear tracks, including paw marks and excrement, to find food such as berries and water along their way. Plus, the bears cut paths, and most of their paths were north and south. So what the quilts supposedly block told them to do is follow the bear path and keep going north because they were going in the right direction. So they also used the block to warn people that there were bears ahead, because if the elements weren't killing the slaves or the people chasing after them, well, wildlife can definitely get you. So it was also a warning to watch out for bears and probably other animals as well, if I can imagine, because back then there were wolves in Ohio and lots of things that could hurt a person. So that's a little bit of the history of the Bear Paw block and the role it played in the Underground Railroad, if we believe that the truth behind this, which the more I research this, the more I have to believe it, just because there's so many ties in my state to the Underground Railroad, and all the blocks and all the meanings behind them that I have found during the research seem to make sense. So we're just going to go with this is real. Now, I know that some of you have left me comments saying this is all a myth. You know, okay, whatever you want to believe, it's up to you. Like I said, whether it's a myth or it's a reality, I like to learn about the history of the blocks, and I'm having a really fun time doing this. And I'd like to believe that quilters had some part in helping these folks to freedom. So without further ado, let's get to the block and start sewing it. And as always, I'm going to give you the measurements that I'm using. I am using the Underground Railroad book from Eleanor Burns as a guide to this, but I am not following her directions per se. I don't feel like the directions are very clear, especially with what size things need to be if you're trimming down and things like that. So I am just looking at the blocks and then putting them in my own way. They may be the same way she does it, they may be a different way. So this is just the way I'm doing it. So if you want to do it my way, I will say what size the pieces are, and then you can go from there and follow my tutorial, or you can go with the book. Now this time around, I think I might be pretty similar to the book, but I know other blocks I've done have been different and people have asked, so I just wanted to address that really quick. So, like I said, let's get started on this block. Okay, so here are the pieces. I've got them all laid out of what you're going to need for this block. Now I used a background fabric, which is this here, and then I used 3 different colors. This purpley brown color, this kind of golden, and this green. The green is going to be the very center of my bear paw block, and that is a 2-inch square. You just need one of those. So I'm going to set that aside because we're not going to need the center for a bit. And then the sashing that's going to be in between the paws, that is going to be these strips here. These are 2 inches by 5 3/4. 2 inches by 5 3/4. You need 4 of those. So 4 2-inch by 5 3/4 inch strips. Then you need 4 2 1/4 inch cornerstone pieces. These are going to be the very outsides of this bear paw block. So 4 of those, 4 2 1/4. And then you're going to need 4 4-inch squares. This is going to be the main paw part of the block, of the bear's paw. And then I'm going to do the 8 at a time half square triangle method because we have 16 to make for this quilt. And I think this goes a lot faster. So what I did is I cut a 6.5-inch background square and a 6.5-inch of the colored or print, because you might have a plain background, but the print square, whatever your claw print is. So 6.5 each, and you need 2 sets of these. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bear claws, which are going to be, like I said, half square triangles. So I'm going to lay my background piece on top of my 6.5-inch colored piece. And then I'm going to draw a line corner to corner on the back with your favorite marking tool. Each direction, both directions. I like to do half square triangles this way when we're making a whole bunch of them. It just goes faster. Okay, so now we're going to sew on both sides of both of these lines. So I'm going to sew 1/4 inch down here, and then I'm going to turn this block, and I'm going to sew on either side of, or both sides of this line as well. So let's do that first. Bring that over to the sewing machine. You can pin these together if you like, but they're such big pieces, and we did oversize this, so you have plenty of room to trim down. So don't worry about being super precise. I did that on purpose because you never know when you're sewing. You can make a mistake, and why do all that work to find that your pieces are too small? So my measurement is for the oversized pieces. So if you don't like to do that and you want to be more precise, there's all kind of tools on the internet. You can look up 8 at a time half square triangle method. And a lot of the charts have the sizes for the oversized and trimmed down, and so a lot of them have also like the sizes if you want the exact. Okay, so I've got that sewn each direction on both sides of the line. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our ruler and we're going to cut this apart. Now, if you have a rotating cutting mat, that would be good to use right now. I don't have mine out, so I'm just going to use my handy dandy ruler here. So the very center of this block is 3 1/4 inches, because this is a 6.5 inch block. So if you measure from the end 3 1/4, or you can just put your ruler right where you sewed through the middle where the X is. We're going to cut it vertically and horizontally first, and then we're going to cut it on the lines that we drew. So just like that. Now I'm going to cut it on the lines that I drew. Oops. That one slipped a little, but that's all right. If they do slip apart at this point, because they might, it's okay because your lines are drawn. You can just take them apart and cut them apart on the lines. Let me fix that guy. So you could individually pull these out and cut them apart, but. All right, so there we go. We've got 8 that are going to turn into 8 half square triangles, and I did cut that one a little off. My rotary cutter moved at the end there, but because I oversized them, we're still going to have plenty. So no harm, no foul. That's why I like doing this method. All right, so now we're going to press all these guys and then trim them down to 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to use my Easy Press pen here. Call it Magic Juice because it's awesome. Makes these nice and flat. And I'm going to press all these towards the darker fabric and get 8 half square triangles. Now you're going to do this twice and you're going to get 16 half square triangles. So don't forget that. But I'm just showing you the 8 because I don't think you want to watch me sew and press 16 half square triangles. And actually I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here, press the rest of these, and then we're going to trim them down to 2 1/4 inches. So I will come back when I just have one left and show you guys how to trim it, and then we'll get back to sewing. Okay, so I have cut and pressed all of my half square triangles except for this guy. I'm just going to do one with you guys and show you how to do it. So this is going to be trimmed down to 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to lay my diagonal line, 45-degree line on my ruler, right on that line. And we have plenty to trim off and get this block as square as possible. So I'm just finding the 2 1/4 inch mark. Now, I know it's a little bit of waste, but you can cut yours a little smaller if you don't want that much waste. Okay, let's close that. Okay, so there are my squares. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to line these up to make our bear claws. Isn't that cute? I love it. All right, so I've already put 2 of them together just to save some time, so you can see there's 2 here. So I've got these going. I'm going to use this as a reference, my finished block. And then I'm going to line these guys up here. And then this is our cornerstone or corner squares that I was telling you guys about. So that's our 2 1/4 inch. And then this is our 4-inch square that's going to go right here. So I'm going to sew all these together, put these together, and we'll make our bear paw. So you can use 4 half square triangles per paw and one of the 2 1/4 inch cornerstones. Set that guy aside. So as I was pressing these half square triangles, I was thinking about my state of Ohio. We get a bad rap sometimes, I think. People think that we're just ignorant Midwest people, for lack of a better term, that there's corn and farms and cows, and there are all those things. But this block reminded me that Ohio has some really cool history too, and some very kind people here, and I really love my state. So I hope you guys look into the history of your state and find things to love about it too, even if your state is not one of the quote-unquote cool states to live in. I think Ohio is pretty cool. We have a lot of things in the state. I live right up by the lake, so we have islands in the lake, vineyards, of course all the farms, and lots of other great things in Ohio. And we've had some really cool people that were born and came from Ohio. So, for example, some of you might know Sarah Jessica Parker from the Sex and the City shows. She is from Ohio, and lately, I don't know how you would have missed this, but all over the news, thanks to Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs. He is from Ohio, and he was a big football star here in a city called Cleveland Heights, which is not too far from where I live, because he's up also closer to the lake. So that is another person from Ohio that's pretty well known. And lots of other ones, lots of other actors and things like that. But one of my favorite ones is John Legend. He is from Springfield, Ohio, and he's one of my favorite singers. And I totally geeked out when I found out he's from Ohio, because I did not know that. So we got some pretty cool stuff here in Ohio. Plus lots and lots of quilters, which is awesome. And I have been told by people who come and visit, either for my retreats or just come and visit me, that Ohio has some of the nicest people. So if we get a rap for being Midwestern and backwards, I'm okay with that, as long as y'all know that we're nice people. All right, so just giving this a press. And also, the coolest fact of all is that the bear paw block started in Ohio. All right, so now we're just gonna sew these together right there. And I did press this one in and this one out, so these can nest really well right here. But you are certainly most welcome to press this whatever way is your favorite. A lot of people like to press everything open. I typically don't do that unless I get lots of thick seams. Because number one, it can make your seam weaker. Can, not always, but it takes longer. So if I don't have to press open, I don't. Alrighty. Right, and we're just going to give this guy a press. And this is Acorn Easy Press Precision. It's not glue. I've been asked if it's glue. It's not glue. It is like a starch alternative concentrate, similar to Best Press, but not Best Press. It's Acorn's own proprietary formula. I really enjoy having blocks come out. Nothing's gonna be perfect, because we are not perfect, right? We're human beings. But I like having my blocks coming out as precise as I physically am possible in making them, and that helps me because it makes my seams nice and flat. The flatter your seams are, the nicer your whole block comes together. So I get asked that question all the time, so I thought I'd talk about it today a little bit. And I do have a video on how to use that more, so if you're interested, you can look through my videos. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, and I've already done one, is that we need to put two paws together with a sashing strip in the middle. So I've got one together there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the next one together here. So I'm gonna add this. And all of these are using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, no scant business out there. If you like to do scant though, that's perfectly fine if you're more comfortable with that, but if I can help it, anything I teach you will be a regular 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to press this in away from all these other bits so it's not so bulky. And then we'll add the other bear paw. To this. Bear paws have a lot of bits and pieces, but they're really easy. They're all things that if you've been sewing for a while, it's rectangles, squares, and half square triangles. If you're brand new to quilting, this is a really great block to learn how to make half square triangles and put different shapes together. So I really love a bear paw block. We don't have a whole lot of bears left in Ohio anymore, but back during the 1800s, there were a lot of bears here. We still have some. They're just not as common, and mainly because people moved in, and bears tend to not live so much around people. Although we do have one every once in a while, pops up around here in a city or a park, and people freak out and go, where did that come from? Well, we have bears in Ohio. And one wandered from somewhere. We do have a lot of parks in Ohio. We have a whole park system around this area called the Metro Parks. And one of them is on the National Registry of Parks, National Parks. So that's really cool. And there's definitely bears down there. But there's all kind of parks all over Ohio that have bears, Hocking Hills and places like that. So maybe they should still be putting out bear paw quilts and warning people of bears in those areas. All right, so there we have both sets of our bear paws. So the only thing we need to do now is make our sashing strip for the middle. So I'm going to grab that little green square, which was a 2-inch square that I got for the center, and then my last 2 sashing strips. So I'm going to sew these together, and I pressed these in. So I'm going to press this out, which is typically not what I do with a darker color, but there was so much bulk on the paws that I wanted to press this center away from the paws and not create any more bulk here. So going against the grain with this one, but it'll turn out just fine. I'm going to go ahead and finger press that one and then do the other side, and then we'll press them both at the same time. All right, put a little bit of magic juice on there. And then grab my iron, and we'll put this whole block together. Really nice block. Doesn't take long to put one of these together. Definitely goes faster when you're not filming it. So it shouldn't take you, with even cutting one block and putting it together, probably not more than a half an hour. So if it takes you that long. The half square triangles will probably take you the longest, making them and trimming them. Now you can do your half square triangles a different way if you choose. I will not be offended if you do not do it the 8 at a time method, or if you make your squares smaller. Not at all. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay this guy on top and sew down here. I hope you all are having a wonderful week. It has been pretty nice weather here. Got cold for a few days. Actually, I had to bring a sweater out. Kind of surprising for this time of year, but next week we're supposed to be getting that Midwest heat that they're saying all over the news, and it looks like maybe even Sunday, but definitely Monday and Tuesday we are not going to want to go outside. So today was an absolutely beautiful day. It was sunny, about 78, and we had a real nice breeze off the lake. So it's just a perfect day to be outside because it was sunny and gorgeous, but you got the nice breeze so you didn't overheat. So beautiful day. So had a lot of fun being outside, watching my kids ride their bikes. So I hope you're getting to do something fun on these beautiful days as well. Again, I'm pressing away from the bear paws just because they're bulky and I don't want to add more bulk to that. I always think about bulk when I sew and press. As a long arm quilter, I never really thought about it, to be honest with you guys, before I became a long arm quilter, but because I think about the bulk and how it will fit under the machine. So, all right. One more to add, and then we will have our block. as you are watching this, don't forget, if you are brand new here, thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you've been here before and you have not subscribed yet, I'd love it if you would. And if you don't mind, give me a thumbs up under this video. YouTube has these funny little things called algorithms, and the more thumbs up I get, the more they spread this video to other people. And I don't usually really care that much about that, to be honest with you guys. I just love sharing sewing with you because I love to quilt and sew. But I would love if more people saw these little history things about these blocks. Whether you believe in the Underground Railroad quilt or not, I think it's really interesting to know the history of our favorite quilt blocks. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button below this video, that would be amazing. And I will link in the show notes down below where you can hit more in the gray box below the video if you are interested in getting this book. I don't get paid anything for it. I don't have an Amazon affiliate or anything like that, but just where you can find it on Amazon if you're interested in getting the book. Or you can just follow along with me because, like I said, these are all classic blocks that you can find anywhere on the internet. And I have the book just to know what blocks to do, but I'm not really using the book. So some of my instructions might be the same. Some might be very different. I know some of the techniques, when I looked at the book, that they use are a little bit more old-fashioned, and that's all right. If you like doing them that way, that's perfectly all right. I'm just kind of going my own way, doing my own thing. So, all right, there is our block. Well, thank you all so much for joining with me today. I hope you enjoyed that and hope you're sewing along. Let me know down below, how is it going for you if you are sewing along? And if you're not sewing along, just leave me a comment anyway. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk to everybody that comes on over. So, as you can see, I've got the North Star block on the wall behind me. One in the middle of this is Jacob's Ladder block, and the one on the end is, of course, our turn dash. And now we've got our bear paw, and it's so cute. I love it. I love the way it came out. It came out really, really well. I'm really happy with I kept all my points and everything like that. So not a hard block. Like I said, the one nice thing about this block is it is a lot of basic techniques. So if you're newer to quilting, this is a really good one to learn how to do some of those basic techniques and mixing squares and half square triangles and rectangles all together. So I will see you guys really soon for the next one. Not sure what that's going to be. I'm just gonna pick one out of the book. There are 16 altogether, so we're on number 4. And I know I got a week or two behind when I was gone on the quilting cruise, but I'm excited to be back and working on these again because I just love them. And I already have a place that I'm going to donate this Underground Railroad quilt to, so I'm really excited about that too, and I'll tell you guys more about that later. All right, for now, talk to you later. Bye.